Hey everybody, thank you for joining. I do apologize about last week for the first time, hopefully the only time. We had a huge technical glitch with my audio. And so let's see if I can make sure. I did test, retest, and triple test my audio for today. However, if it's glitching again, I think I just will get a new computer at that point. But okay, and so let's kill that real quick. Let's go ahead and get into this. Dustin Puryear, founder, Giant Rocketship. We turbocharge MSPs by automating help desk and Autotask. And this is my weekly office hours. I don't know if this is called a podcast or a webinar since it's regular, but we will find out. So what I would like to do here is I always kick this off by just showing anybody that's on that is a customer some of our updates, and then I get right into the nitty gritty. As always, if you have questions, just post them into the chat. And also a reminder that a lot of the things that I cover are from emails sent to me by you guys, and I really do appreciate those. I usually get several through the week, and then I'll cherry pick a couple. But ultimately, I do hold a list, and I'll get to all of them. Okay, so a couple of changes real quick in Rocketship itself that I want to highlight. And as always, you can look at it here, is what we call the SLA Sentinel, or predictions for SLA violations that now come with Rocketship. And I want to show you, if you're a customer, what that looks like. So one of the most difficult things for a service manager to do is to really predict which tickets are going to go into an SLA violation. It's very easy to run a report to say who is in violation or who will violate if we don't know it today. But when you look at workload, that's very difficult, right? How do you predict 5 days from now that these 3 tickets will violate SLA, right? So we have all of your data in terms of your scheduling, how busy, your time zones, everything else. And then we are able to use estimates for these tickets. And from there, we predict which tickets will violate the SLA. And just looking at this real quick, what you can see is, this is a next activity right here. It looks good. But notice, and this is kind of a bad example because it's already red, but this is overtime, which means that this technician's going down the rabbit hole. It's because I started it for a demo yesterday, and it's red. But notice the red highlight on this puppy. That means that the prediction engine is predicting that ticket will go into violation. Here's another one. Notice how this is in red. And I think that's the only one we have set up for this. But this ticket is being predicted. In fact, it's telling you right here that the SLA, we use codes for people that have, color blindness. You can't strictly focus on colors because you have to be a little bit more open-minded on what people can see. So we put little prefix codes as well. And that says, look, SLA exclamation point, and then it puts red around this. And this is warning you as a service manager and the technician that all things being equal, this ticket will violate SLA unless something is changed. So heads up, that's a big release that we pushed out. All right, so let's tackle these real quick. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go through a couple of updates from the questions you guys have had. And in fact, one of the questions is not super Autotask related, but I created a blog article on it because I thought it was such a great question. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm just looking for where this is. There we go. There's one field that people try to avoid, and it's really to your detriment. And it's the other or miscellaneous field. And this does, the conversation was about Rocketship. And when you do an escalation in Rocketship, it gives you the ability to choose the why. And this is used in reporting. But you can ignore Rocketship, right? So this is just true of these drop-down lists too. The issue type, sub-issues, sources, and people have a tendency to not want to use an other or miscellaneous. So let's go take a look at that real quick. And so if I go into my ticket issue and sub-issues, and my Autotask dev tenant is going a little slow today. But notice we have these things, these major groups. You know, you don't really want to have other, and I'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about here. And there we go. And so notice there's an other. Now this is user configurable, but by out of the box it comes with other. And again, if you look at these, there's no other here in the major categories, right? But if you drill down into these, like notice there's an other. It's very common. A lot of people don't want an other or miscellaneous because it's a kind of like an undefined setting. And so their thinking is, hey, look, I am going to force my technicians to choose from a defined list. And I will tell you that is a huge, huge mistake you're making. And the reason is they will still choose other, but they're going to choose it by selecting some random value. Sometimes people just do not know what the right answer is, or the right answer is too specific and it's not listed. And they're like, oh, well, it's kind of this, but it's not that. Like, oh, I'll just randomly pick this. And that's going to happen no matter what. You have to be prepared for that. The other is how you deal with that. And so when I blogged about this in response to that person's question, you know, I gave out a list of reasons why you should always provide an other option. And one of the most important is bad data in, bad data out. Other is not bad data. Other means the data, the options for the data I have are not correct. Therefore, I'm going to inform you by selecting other that this is not usable data. It's not bad data. It's just not usable data. You can't report on it. If you don't provide an other, then they're going to randomly pick something, and then you can't trust your database. You don't know why they picked the operating system. They may have just picked it because there was not a better option, but it's not really the correct option, right? The other reason you should provide an other is mentoring, right? If somebody keeps clicking Office Productivity Suite, you won't know to mentor them on your drop downs and what their purpose is and when to pick each one, unless you accidentally find an error when you're spot checking a ticket. If you don't have other, right? Like, how would you know that when they click Office Productivity Suite that it should have been something else? You won't. But if they choose other, you know there's an opportunity there for you to go coach or mentor them on that. So just a quick heads up, I thought that was such a great question. You really do want to supply other. Don't avoid the other. The other thing that came up in this, I think it was a Reddit conversation, was using Outlook to manage tickets. So let's talk about that real quick. It is not uncommon for help desk, particularly in smaller MSPs. You almost never see this in a large MSP, but in a smaller MSP where a lot of communication between technicians and the customer is done via email from Outlook. The common arguments is, look, we're fast in Outlook, we know Outlook, everybody's comfortable with it, we'll just CC the ticket. So many problems with that. One, again, you will almost never see that in a large MSP. And the reason is it does not scale. In fact, it will get you in trouble more and more. And let me just activate this. But so let's talk about where using email from Outlook is going to really cause you issues. So one thing is it's just difficult to track it, right? There's so many tickets and there's so many things going on. Your technicians will start to get overloaded in their inbox. And really, an inbox like a calendar should be special. It shouldn't be used to hold miscellaneous everything. It should be very, very actionable. If a technician gets a direct email, it should surprise him, right? They should look at the email and say, okay, what is this from? Why am I getting a direct email from somebody not inside my organization, right? It should be something they want to act on. But instead, if you're doing all of your triage and your activities inside of email, it becomes a blur to your technician, and then they don't really focus on it. And then that one time you do get a really important email that should be acted on instantly, they're not going to notice it because they have an avalanche of emails coming at them, right? The other thing is people can't get sick. If you're using Outlook and your technicians are using Outlook, and that technician is sick for a couple of days, what do you do? Do you go look in their mailbox? Do you share their inbox with the whole staff? Does the dispatcher go look at the inbox? Like, think about what you're doing there. You're putting yourself in a position where you either have to ignore all the emails being sent to that technician while they're out, or you have to share their inbox, right? It's just like, okay, well, if you're going to share the inbox, why not just share the ticket in Autotask and have the notes there? Like, it doesn't make sense. And the next thing is figuring out timelines. It can be very difficult figuring out the order of things and conversations. Tickets and ticket notes, technicians tend to be more declarative and checklist oriented. Hey, I need you to do A, B, and C no later than this date. Emails are so commonplace that they become informal, and it becomes difficult to know when something happened because the emails are never clear. And so that's just 3 reasons that I listed my response and I created a blog on it. But again, this is impactful to you as an Autotask, as a owner of a MSP using Autotask, or as a service manager, where you need to be really focused on not just the how in Autotask, but the why, the what you would like to do. So I do want to tackle one more. So this is a technical one. This is a question that was sent in, and so the question was, how do I send out a notification from Autotask that includes all of the ticket notes? This might be used in one of 2 common scenarios: when you're completing a ticket, or when a ticket that is waiting customer goes idle and it's about to be auto closed. That's the 2 most common scenarios you would see that. So let's walk through that. And so most people know how to use the notifications that come with Autotask that includes the current note. But let's see what it looks like when you want to send all the notes from a ticket. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into Service Desk under Notification Templates. And let's see what I named my example. With all notes. Probably should say ticket note with all tech notes or something. That's not very clear. But let's take a look at it. I have it all set up and ready to go for you, and I was going to explain it. Now, obviously, this is not what we want to send to a customer, but I do this so it's very clear to you when you're testing it what each of these codes is doing, so you can pick the one that works best for you. Now, a quick warning here. The actual answer to this is very dangerous, and I'm going to tell you, well, I'm going to show you why in a second. But we're going to go through what each of these does. So all time with summary notes, right? So ticket time entry. The problem with this is not ticket notes, these are time entries. But the power, or the positive of this, is that it's only the summary notes. If you properly train your team, they will know to only put customer-facing data into the summary notes, not internal conversations. Internal conversations can be harsh sometimes, right? So you'd be very careful about what's going into tickets and what your customers can see. If you have a problem customer, and the technician needs to say, hey, look, this customer keeps making the same mistake. What are we going to do about this? Obviously, don't put that into a summary note. That goes into an internal note. Better yet, it goes into a huddle with your management team. So obviously, this says all time with summary and internal notes. And you guessed it, it's going to send you both in chronological order of the time entries. All summary notes only. So the difference between this includes, if the technician worked for an hour, this would say 1 hour, here's the note. 1 hour with these notes. Just the notes, just the internal notes. This would not be something you would send to a customer, but it's available. Here's the one you want, ticket history. And so the way you find it is you just go here and then you look for, I knew it was here is how I was able to find it so quickly. Most people just aren't aware of it, but it is here. It's ticket history. Here's the risk. This is the big bad boy right here. This thing has all the data. It has all your time entries, all your internal notes, all your regular ticket notes. The reality is I just don't think this type of notification should ever be sent to a customer. This is good for internal review. The question was asked, and so I wanted to answer it. But in my personal opinion, like, you really don't want to send this. This is just dangerous. And a heads up, I also copy and paste and put that into the plain text. That way Autotask sends both versions. So whenever you create perhaps a status, it could trigger, the workflow would trigger a notification that used this template, and that's how you would solve that. Okay, great. So that's how that addresses that. Okay, I tackled 3 things. 2 are kind of meta. 1 is very technical. I hope that helps you. Again, this is weekly. Keep sending me questions. I love these questions. Dustin Puryear, Giant Rocketship. We turbocharge your MSP by automating help desk and Autotask, and we'll be focused on Autotask solutions for our weekly office hours next week. Thank you, and have a good one.